Hi, everybody. My name is Cecilia Pacheco. I'm with UNM Rainforest Innovations, and this is one of our seminars for our University Center seminar series. And today we have with us Stacy Sacco, who teaches entrepreneurial studies at UNM Anderson School of Management. He also serves as the director of the UNM Small Business Institute, and he owns Sacco Connections LLC. Stacy previously held senior marketing management positions at several national Fortune 500 corporations in Southern California, including Avco Financial Services, Transamerica Insurance, and Hyundai's captive finance company. He's also part of the Greater Albuquerque Chamber of Commerce and the CNM Workforce Training Center, and also held position at Kirtland Federal Credit Union and at West. Stacy is an active leader in the community, including previously serving on the boards of the American Marketing Association, and he previously curated two TEDx ABQ talks, and is also active in the Toastmasters Public Speaking Club statewide. Stacy currently serves as an ambassador for the Albuquerque Economic Development Association, and he's a member of Up With the People International Alumni Association Board of Governors. He is also our University Center mentor for UNM Taos, and he holds open office hours with the local rainforest. And then he also hosts his free website, NM Links, which connects 5,000 subscribers to over 3,000 links of local jobs. Today, he will be giving us his talk on networking, and I usually refer to Stacy as the master networker. So we're really happy to have him here with us to give some strategies and talk about strategic networking. So without further ado, I will turn things over to Stacy. Thank you.
Okay. Hello. Thank you, Cecilia. This is a little unusual because we're in an office. It's just her and I, but given COVID and some other things, it's kind of hard to have a meeting with people in the room, et cetera, et cetera. So we thought, let's just go through what I normally go through in a slideshow, and then it'll give you a flavor for what I normally talk about in networking. So I did put together a slideshow. There's about 15, 20 slides, and some of them are more just informational, so I won't have much to say about them except that it's great resource information for you to follow up on. And then, and a lot of times I will print these things out, but you may want to do that because some of it's pretty small letters if there's a list. So on the front page of all this, I put together a list of some of those titles that she mentioned. I probably need to put in there I'm an insomniac. Because how do I get all those things done? I never sleep. But anyways, just kidding. But I've had people say, how do you get all this much done? Well, I don't have kids. If you have kids, you know, my friends who have kids, they're running around, and I don't have that. My kids are my students at UNM, but so I have time, and I've learned to try to be as efficient as I can, creating templates for things, and then being very careful about where I spend my time. And I think that's part of this presentation. Initially was called just networking. And the more I spoke about networking was more about when you get in the room, how do you shake hands, things like that. What I've realized is that there's another part to networking that's much bigger. Because I'll go to meetings and I'll be in a room and I'll meet somebody and I'm like, what are you doing in this room? This is a chamber function and you're an HR professional. And there's people there they need to meet. Sure, most of the chamber meetings are very target rich, depending on what you're doing. But in some cases, I'm like, they're looking for a job in HR or human resources. They probably should be at the HRMA meeting to meet senior executives in the HR field. So it was interesting to me that this slideshow has evolved from being more about the mechanics or tactical aspects of being a networker, but more now about being strategic about that so that you're in the right rooms and using your time more efficiently and more effectively. So I think I just hit the down button or the enter. Yeah. Nope, it's not working. Oh, there it is. Okay. So the other thing that she didn't mention, one of my titles, I have been named one of the better networkers in New Mexico Business Weekly. One of the titles I get that I get a big kick out of is the best person to have lunch with from Albuquerque, the magazine. And one thing to just say is that I see Laryl quite a bit. And so people think I get it because I know Laryl. I get these titles. And Laryl's very strict about it. He's not going to put your name in there unless you got elected. So this last year I got bumped from the list of the 6. And who bumped me was Mayor Keller. So I thought, well, I'd rather, I'd love to have lunch with Mayor Keller rather than me. Keller's doing amazing things here in this town. And so I'm just saying it's just a fun title. But my joke with Laryl is always, can I change it to the best guy to have a beer with? And he looks at me like, what are you smoking? But and then my wife's like, how about best guy to have a salad with, because she's trying to keep me on a diet. But, or best guy to run in a marathon or exercise. But in any case, where I get this title on networking is mostly because I go to a lot of events and I know a lot of people. And if anything, I also know a lot of information. So I'm going to give you some ways to get to some of that information for you to access. But before I get to that, Cecilia didn't mention it, but we're sitting in the Mexico Rainforest Innovations Center, and they have a great map with some ties to other organizations that they're tied to, whether it's SCORE or SBDC. So if you're ever, I believe she's going to put that or is on their website. So I definitely would encourage you to go to their website and look at some of the resources they're connected to. Because again, it's about being in the right room. So if you know which groups are out there or which organizations are out there, especially if you're an entrepreneur, there's a lot of wonderful resources starting with the Lobo Rainforest to help you start and then grow your business. So I always laugh. I think we should rename the state, instead of the state of enchantment, the state of entrepreneurship. If you look at it, we have about 150,000 businesses registered in the state. And on my website, I have a list, and you have other lists out there, like the Private 100, which the Albuquerque Business First book of lists, I brought it today, has. There's only about 200 businesses with 200 employees or more. Oh boy, what's that tell you? This big pie of 150,000 businesses is a very small slice of large companies. So this is really a small business state, which has got its pluses and minuses. If you're a business startup, know that there's a huge community here to help support you in starting and growing your business. And if you're selling products B2B, you've got a ready market here for depending on what products you have. But we have a rich entrepreneurial ecosystem here in Albuquerque, and know that well across the whole state. So here's a presentation outline. I'm going to go right through this real fast because I'm just going to get right to it. I think one of the things that's of great value to know is this first slide is about what's your why. Now there was Simon Sinek, which I have a link to that, it's actually a TED Talk. And it's funny, he did it at Berkeley. And of all the guys, I had to laugh because here's one of the most watched TED Talks of all time. I did a TED Talk, I think I have 300 people looked at it. He's got like 1 million or 2 million or some crazy number. And they had the wrong microphone on him so that the production qualities are not that good. But so watch it. And the first time I watched it, everybody kept telling me, oh my God, this is the coolest TED Talk. And I'm like, okay. So I watched it, and it's probably like watching a movie where somebody says, oh, this is the most amazing movie. It's so funny. And then you go and you watch it, and you say, well, that wasn't that funny. You have too many expectations about this thing. And when I first saw it, I thought, well, he didn't say anything that didn't seem fairly common practice. But But then I watched it 2 more times, and now I'm a huge believer in, he's my guru, this Simon Sinek guy. And what he talks about is he calls it the golden circle, and that we have a tendency in marketing to talk about what we make and how we make it, so features and benefits, as opposed to what's going on. And I don't want to maybe use the word spiritually, but it's about what's going on with this company. And so he uses as an example Apple products and how Apple is sort of on a mission. Well, most companies I've worked at over the years, we always did a business plan. We had mission, vision, values. So in a way, he's replaced that in my mind with this why. So why are we in business? And then it affects everything else that goes on in terms of why you're doing what you're doing. So there's a story around that, is that one is, go watch that video. I give you a link to that. And as I said, the first time I watched it, I thought, what? But the second and third time, it's really has a strong message. And he's inspired so many of us. I have my entrepreneurial students watch every semester, they watch that. And then we talk about what's their why. So I came up with a list of some whys, but I think there's a gentleman here in Albuquerque who's done a better job of that. His name is Dr. Gary Sanchez. He's a dentist. So he used to give away this test for free. It was kind of like a Myers-Briggs test. You do paired things like, are you this or that? And some other questions, puts you in scenarios. And then he comes back and says, well, your predominant why is blank. You want to make a difference, or you want to find a better way, etc. So he, over some research looking at this, he's identified 9 whys. So I give you those 9 whys. He's changed this now so that it's $47 for the test, but it's well worth it. And I would also encourage you, if you ever can, he has other workshops later that takes you from your why to how can you, and what can you do to apply it to your business or your career. So this is just the beginning or foundation of that. But I think he did a good job of filtering what Simon had written or talked about. I should say written too, he's written several books. And I think there's value in knowing what your why is or what your mission is, because it plays out in all the things you'll do in terms of network. So, plus you want to know some other things about who you're trying to target, et cetera. So I'll talk about that now. But just so you know, I love to talk about the why, just because I think it lays a foundation for what you're going to do in networking, and know that there's a tie back to Albuquerque with Dr. Sanchez. So the other thing I talk a lot about too, which was sort of getting away from this tactical piece of networking, because that tends to be more what I call checkers. You're just moving, you see it move and you make it in checkers game. In chess, you've got to think positions ahead or moves ahead of where you're going. In fact, I did some work on that one time to see they had the computers would beat all the humans. Now humans can beat the computer, because what happens is that the computer in chess, when they're playing it, looks at every possible move. So it's millions and millions of moves, and then figures out the best combination of things to move next. But it's only about 2 or 3 moves out, where a human can sort of, interesting enough, actually look a little further out or look at it more qualitatively and start making some decisions about where to go. I think that's what we all do naturally. And I think that's a huge value for you to think about networking or any of those, anything you're doing in marketing yourself or your business, is what's the strategy around this? Where am I going? Which room should I be in? So that's kind of why this slideshow has changed a little bit, because I've added more of this higher level picture to it. So one of the other pieces of this is right here, and this ties back to my TED Talk. I have a very strong awareness of time in terms of how much time you have. And you have to be careful, because if you go to, in fact, let me pop ahead here. If you, at the bottom of this, I said, if you attend 1 meeting a month, and I'm 64 years old, so that's 3 years, 1 meeting a month, that's 3 times 12, it's 36 more meetings I'm going to go to. Well, hello. I mean, I think a lot of people go to meetings and meet a couple people, and it's sort of, they're reacting to who's in the room, as opposed to really putting process around that and thinking about it proactively. But if you're only going to go to 36 more meetings, or let's say you go 3 a month and it's 100 and whatever, you probably should be in the right rooms. Now, I did that in terms of how many weeks you have on the planet. So I know if you live 100 years, it's 5,200 weeks. I think I don't have it here with me, but I have about 1,000 weeks. I know it sounds morbid, but if I'm 64 and my actuarial table say I lived about 84, it's 20 years times 52 weeks, it's 1,000 weeks. So that sounds awful, but the point is you only have so much time. We're all just temps, but I think where the value in that is that I know I'm only going to read like 64 more books. So guess what? I want to make sure I'm looking at the right books. I have a list of books I want to read. Now, I don't have 64, but I have about 12 ahead. And I got rid of this whole process of having like 10 books next to the bed, and I'd read a little bit one night and a little bit the next night. No. I put 9 of them in a closet. Now I read one, because it's about being very focused with your time, which is sort of a strategic viewpoint. So if you only have, in my case, 1,000 more weeks, then you want to do the best you can do, which is not a negative, that's a positive. So I always laugh because I say, I'm going to go to 19 more balloon festivals. So I know more people that go, well, we're not going this year, but I'm going to go to the one because I have Tuesday night free. Nope, that's not my game plan. I want to go to the night that they have balloon glow. They've got the special shapes. I want to go to the coolest one. And I'm on a diet. I should only eat 1 corn on the cob. I'm going to have 2. I'm going to make it great. So that's a positive. It's more about anything you do, make it great. Don't just do it reactively because you have this little bit of time. No, be proactive about that, which is the same thing with networking. You can just go to meetings. I mean, there's 6 professional associations, but 200 economic development sort of agencies, 20 chambers of commerce in Albuquerque. Oh yeah, we could go out tonight and well, we can't here now because of COVID, but generally you could go to 1 meeting a night for the rest of your life. But really, I mean, if you're going to do that, are you going to the right meeting? Is there value in it? So I think it sort of starts with asking yourself, why am I there? Ultimately, time is money. We say that all the time. I did do a chart, I don't have it in here, of saying how much time do I spend networking? What's that cost me? Well, it's dollars per hour plus the dollar for the event, plus there's opportunity cost. Could I have been doing something else and moved forward on that rather than just going to a networking thing? Networking is part of a tool. It's instead of spending a bunch of money on advertising or hiring somebody in sales, you're going to a networking function, hopefully to move something forward, either increase your sales, find certain vendors to work with, get resources, get a job, etc. So I think you want to think of networking as a tool to move yourself forward. So that's, again, another strategic thing. So, I did put a sample your personal time timeline on my website, NM Netlinks, which I'm giving you a link to here. So you can go in and put your own dates in, and it'll give you your actuarial table. So if you're wanting to do that, I make it pretty easy now. Some people don't like to know those numbers, but I'm okay with that. So create a networking process. This is just a fun card or fun cartoon about a guy who, I don't think you can see it, Cecilia, but it's about a guy who, instead of handing out business cards, he wants people to remember his name, so he has a rubber stamp, and he's hit this guy in the head and stamped his bald forehead. It's awful. I shouldn't show that because I'm bald, but anyways, it's just funny. It's like he's saying, it's too easy to lose a business card. A rubber stamp you'll remember. Oh yeah, you'll remember that. But I think there's something more about this. So I went through years ago Quality New Mexico program. I did that for about 6 years. In fact, I was an examiner, team lead examiner. What they teach you to do is examine, almost from a scientific method point of view, each company. And it's this idea of plan, do, check, act. So if you think it's important to have diversity, awareness at your company, well, okay. What are you doing about it? Is it part of your hiring practices, et cetera? And then how are you measuring it? And how are you tracking that so that you're improving it over time? Well, once you've done that with a Quality New Mexico type program or Albuquerque Quality Network, there's a couple here in town, it changes you. So when you're managing anything, you see it sort of from this role of, well, wait a minute, what am I trying to get done? What am I doing to get it done? And then how am I measuring that? So this chart I'm showing you sort of gets to that. When I worked at West and I spent a lot of time with small business owners or fledgling small business owners, people that were in startup situations, I'd start with this conversation about, well, what's your product and who you're trying to sell to? So let's list some of the attributes of that market or those sales prospects. So we'd sort of come up with 10 different attributes, and then I'd say, well, rank them. Let's figure out because let's find them. It's sort of my version of stalking, which is partly what networking is, but I try to get it to something simple to manage. So instead of looking at all the top 10, you look at the top 3, and then you do a Venn diagram and say, okay, because for example, I had one woman I was helping with a high-end nail salon. So it was going to be, one of the circles was women. She needed them to have a certain income, and probably working because they cared about their nails. And then third was, she knew she was going to be in a particular place in town, so she probably wouldn't get too many people from Santa Fe. So it was very specific location. So location, gender, and income. So then, okay, who's in that middle of those 3 coming together? Well, and then how are you going to get to them? Well, in that case, it's probably NABO, National Association of Women Business Owners. That's the folks that are members of that are probably all 3 of those. Certainly Executive Women's International, American Business Women Association, there's 3 of those here in Albuquerque. So there's lots of ways to get to those women's organizations. If you're going to work with a team here in town, it's probably going to be West, it's Women's Economic Self-Sufficiency Team. But it's that analysis of, okay, who do I need to meet? What are their attributes? And then let's pick the top 2 or 3 or 4 and start figuring out, okay, if we match that up with groups, now I want to meet those people. Well, I should probably be going to NABO dinners. They're second Tuesday of every month. So you should be there. The second part of this is, so it starts with defining your goals, researching the industry, and then just creating a calendar around that as to which groups you want to go to. Then I have here, the next is okay, so you have identified who you want to meet, which rooms they're in, and then you're in the room. Okay, so the next portion of this process is you're in the room, how do you work the room? So I'll go into a little more detail on this, but basically there's a lot of ways to go to a networking event. The typical one I see is people just show up and they start meeting people. If you only are going to go to 36 of these meetings or whatever, I would go more with a purpose and a goal and manage that rather than just sort of go in and react to who happens to be in the room. One of the best ways I suggest to do that is first go to the organization's website and figure out, in fact, the first place I always go on those websites is their board. I don't go to when's their meeting. I first go to see who's on their board. If these are really, I hate to say this, but if these are really lower level people, not decision makers, probably that's me and I should be in that room to meet my peers. But if I need to up my game, I want to be in a group with the higher level people. So I'm going to go to the groups that have people I can reach to either sell or talk to about what my business is and use them as, in a sense, mentors or people that are decision makers that might buy my product. So the easy way to do that is go look at their list of board members. Now you've got a list of some people that you may want to meet. So when I go to the meeting, I've got this list of 2 or 3 people. Again, I'm managing that. Another easy way is when you get to a meeting, there'll be a roster on the front table and ask if you can look at it. So you can look and see, oh, they'll generally have their name and their company. You'll say, oh, there's 3 people I want to meet. And so you make a list of the 3 people you want to meet. And I always laugh because the people at a registration table always go, oh, can we introduce you? They're always so helpful. And I'm like, no, that's okay. Who I really, really want to meet is the president. Well, I already looked at their board list, so I know who it is. But they're always so gracious, and they'll say, well, it's Cecilia. She's the president. Okay. So I need to meet Cecilia next because when I meet her, I'm going to go over and say, hi, I'm Stacy. I'm interested in joining your group or certainly learning more about it since I'm here tonight. and you're the president, is there any way you could introduce me to these 3 people? And I show them my list. Now I know what's going on. Cecilia's busy as hell right now. The coffee or the dinner's late. Speakers just called and said they may not show up. Who knows going on with her? She needs a therapist about right now. And I'm bothering her by saying I need help being introduced. And I'm not even a member. But I could be a member. Her goal as a president is to grow the group. So she probably will pay attention to me. And I've never had any president go, oh, go away. No, they're always very gracious. And they say, give me that list. Who do you need to meet? Oh, yeah, they're here. Well, I already know they're here because I look at the roster. And they'll say they're over there or whatever, and they'll take me over and introduce me. So now I'm meeting Bill or whoever, and Bill's like, who the heck is this guy? Because I'm being introduced by Cecilia, who's everybody knows in the room. So that's another way to sort of up your game and create this sort of buzz around you, because you're getting basically a warm call or a referral. So the other thing, you've got to be careful of those, because then that person's going to go, oh, you wanted to meet me? Why do you want to meet me? You better have something to say. So, and you could generally just say, oh, I noticed your name on the website or on the roster. You know, you're at a company I'm more, or in an industry I'd like to know more about. So I thought, oh, this is a great opportunity to meet you and find out. If you're job hunting, you don't want to say, I wanted to get a job and would you hire me right now? Here's what I need to be paid. They're going to kick you out of the building. You know, you don't want to be that bold. You can get there, but you talk about, it's more what they call an informational interview. So, but now I'm meeting 2 or 3 people that I wanted to meet, as opposed to just showing up and figuring out who's there. It's a little late by then. So if you're in a sales, well, either way, what you want to try to do is when you're talking to somebody, there's more to this tactical. Now we're into the tactical side of this, is you probably want to ask them a little bit about themselves. So if you're back to the strategy though, a lot of people I know go to meetings and they bounce around. I had one friend who was very introverted, and the way he responded to that was he got in his head, I'm going to go to a meeting and meet 3 people. So I'm going to do 2 people I know, or 1 person I know, and then 2 people I don't know, new people, or the other 3 new people, whatever it is, or 3 people I know. But it gives you a comfort zone to work within, as opposed to walking around and going, oh my God, who do I need to meet? And what am I going to talk about? I'm an extrovert. That still freaks me out. If you're an introvert, I can't even imagine you're bouncing. So don't do that to yourself. But rather, I had a friend who'd say, I'm going to meet every time. I'm going to meet 1 person I know and 2 new people. And we'd be in the meeting for about 10 minutes. He'd meet the one he knew. He'd say, well, you're the one I know. I'm like, oh, that you're cheating. And then he'd say, and I had 2 new ones. And then he'd look at me and go, I'm done. And he'd go. And I go, where are you going? I'm just getting started. He always beat me. But you know what? If you look at it, he met 2 new people at every event. We went to 3 a month. That's 6 a month times 12 a year. He's meeting about 50 new people. Hello. That's pretty good. And he was extremely introverted. So for him, that was huge. He was building this network of people. But it started with having a goal and having sort of a plan around what you're going to do. So who do you maybe meet? You might meet decision makers, buyers, influencers, advocates for your product, and then connections to resources. So I have friends who've met their wife or spouse through networking. So you never know what level of connection you're going to make. But in any case, that might fit into it too, is I need to meet 2 people that, or 1 person that might buy my products. Okay. So if that's your goal, maybe you need to meet 10 people to get to that 1. So there's another way to view that same thing, but you're having a plan. That's the whole thing. I'm planning which room, which group, which room, and what I'm going to do when I get to that room. So there's the obvious things you'll want to do is bring your business cards, be, I think, comfortable with walking up to people and just saying hi. So, and you want to look at their name tag. I did want to mention that most of the time when you go to an event, you want to put your name tag. Let's see, do I have this right? I have it wrong. My name tag should be over here. I'm so used to wearing it on the left. But most people are right-handed, so you can't see it. So I put this name tag on my right. So when I meet people, it's on my right. So they're going to shake hands with their right hand, and they're going to see my name tag. So I have this one from UNM that they bought for me. It's very sophisticated, very nice. basically, you don't want to have too much information on there. So definitely your name and your employer. I have actually, and many times if I go to an event, I actually have in the car, I couldn't find it today, but I brought another one. A lot of these meetings you go to, they'll have a tag like this. So I made up my own tag. Sometimes you go and they spell your name wrong or they don't have a tag or name badge. I made up my own. I've never done it where I put their logo on it and cheated and made their own tag that matches theirs. But you can buy these at a bookstore or an office supply store and make up your own tag. And generally, you want to have a name tag. It just makes it easier for people to be more comfortable meeting you. They have your name, etc. And you don't have to put it on the right, but it just makes it handy. The other thing is when you meet somebody and you get their business cards, another easy thing to do is you're going to hand them your card. So you want to think about left hand, right hand, but one of your pockets, if you're wearing a suit, becomes your in basket and the other one becomes your out basket. So you'll reach, in this case, I said out over here. So I'm going to meet you. So I'll reach in here for a business card to hand you. I'll shake your hand and then you're going to hand me a business card. I'm going to put it over here. The only other thing is near the end of the night before I wouldn't do it in front of everybody, but maybe on the car in the parking lot. Pull all those cards out and make some notes on there as to what you talked about with that person and maybe what you promised them. Because one of the things you really want to do is do active listening. So again, if you're the best salespeople, I teach sales, they always say best salespeople or a lot of people assume the best salespeople are extroverts because they're talkers and they can work the room. Actually, they're probably not the best salespeople. I'm terrible at sales if I'm talking too much. So I need to listen more. And Mark Twain said, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, you should use them in that ratio. So that's important. The other thing I do is I like to be the center of attention. I know me. I like to be liked, so and I'm a ham. There's a part of me that becomes a ham. I'm not a narcissist. Cecilia, don't look at me that way. But anyway, I'm not really. I'm more of a nice guy. But I definitely have a ham thing going on because it goes back to I traveled up with people years ago, and I was used to being on stage. And oh boy, I'm on stage with 160 extreme extroverts. I promise you, the guy next to me was Beyonce's uncle. Our drummer went on to become the president of Grammys. These are extreme extroverts. You've got to stand out. You've got to, and I went on the road when I was a kid in high school, or out of high school, and I was pretty shy. You'd never believe that. But so I had to learn how to come out of my shell. So, but I have to be careful because you come out too much, you're not listening. So when I go into a sales situation, I just set myself and I say, quit trying to be the interesting extrovert, but be the interested introvert. So guess you're still talking, but you're talking about them and asking them questions. On the other hand, you got to be careful too. You're not asking too many questions. So you look like you got your little light on here and you're saying, okay, Cecilia, what were you doing on July 26th at 2 p.m.? And I'm interrogating you. Don't do that. So don't be careful not to have some scripted set of questions, but more, how you doing? And some easy things to say are where you're from, what do you do, or you work at whatever. There's a thing you can do there too, is what I call question on an answer. There's question on a question I teach in my sales class. So I said to Cecilia here, so let's say you offer water, you sell water. So I might say, what size bottles do you have? The salesperson, you have to be careful because your answer might be, well, small, medium, large. Well, you want to make it interactive. So in sales, you'd say, we have several sizes. What size are you interested in? And it gets it back on them to start sharing information and listening. In a networking thing, you can do that if somebody asks you about products. What are you interested in? You bring it back to them. But in my case, that's an answer. That's a question on a question. They asked you a question. You ask a question back. In networking, there's question on an answer. So you say, where are you from? And they say, I'm from Idaho. Oh, okay. So now I'm not going to, what you have to be careful of is you don't want to say, oh, I've been to Idaho. You know, in fact, I did climb this mountain and all of a sudden it's all about you. You rather say, oh, what brought you here? What did you like? What do you like so much about New Mexico so far? So you're asking them questions about what they answered. So they say, well, you know what I love here is the outdoors. Oh, do you go outdoors a lot? Have you done much? We have great open space. Have you been to the Sandy Mountains hiking yet? Oh, yeah. Okay, well, tell me about that. So I'm asking a question, digging in on their answer, but without, again, interrogating. It's just you're more showing that you express an interest. And it's funny when you're ever even at home and somebody says something, it's fun to turn it into, oh, well, tell me more about what you're thinking. And it's so funny, people, I know with my wife, she's like, oh, he's interested, that's great. So what you're looking to find out is if they have, it's harder to find it in the conversation, but if you can find out what it is they're dealing with, they're trying to solve a problem, and it could be bad or good or bad. Everybody always, there's a whole bunch of sales methodologies called like the SPIN method. Well, that's situation questions, pain or problem, and then I is implications of where they're going. If they don't do this or that, what's the implications? What's the outcomes? And then N is needs payoff. If I could do this for you, would you want to do it? Well, that's a sales technique. But what's in that word or the acronym is SPIN is P for pain or problem. So if you can talk to somebody and find out what their pain or problem is, you're getting to something you might be able to help them with, and then you might send them an article later to connect back to them to help them solve that pain or problem. I am an optimist, so I hate the pain or problem P. I'd rather say their passion. What are they excited about? What are they passionate about? Maybe I can help them with that. I was on a flight coming from, when I worked for Transamerica, I was going from Houston to LA, sat in the back of the plane, and one of the gentlemen I was talking to was, he and I just hit it off. We had a ball sitting in the back of the plane. And a little while, when we were landing, I was like, I never got his name. What's your name? He goes, my name's Stu. I said, oh my God, I'm sorry, I didn't really introduce myself. What do you do? He says, oh, I'm the Western Region recruiter for McKinsey & Company. Well, if you know McKinsey & Company, it's probably the highest paid consulting firm in the country. You get to go all over the world. I'm like, oh, wish I mentioned that earlier. And then he says, I really enjoyed talking to you. If you ever know anybody who'd want to work for McKinsey & Company, let me know. He says, I like you. And I'm thinking, well, I want to work for you, but too late. So about 2 years later, I was at a meeting at work, and we had a student that was going through our management training program. His name was Sandy. And the more I talked to Sandy, I could tell he wasn't happy. I said, Sandy, because he didn't want to be in insurance. So at lunch, I just said, what's your big goal? What would you want to do? He says, oh, I'd love to work for a consulting company like, McKinsey & Company. And so one other thing happened in between. When I had talked to Stu, he talked a lot about when he retires, he'd like to start a llama ranch up in Wyoming. So I remember seeing an article about llama ranches in Time magazine. So I found the article and I sent it to him. And he sent me a little thank you note. And then here I'm talking to Sandy, and I said, you know what? I know a guy. In fact, I think I still have his card. So I said, just give me your resume. And I called Stu, and I said, hey, I got a guy. And he's like, who are you? I go, I'm Stacy. We met on a plane. He's like, what are you smoking? Like, who are you? He couldn't figure out who I was. And I thought, well, it's been a couple of years. I said, oh, well, you and I met on a plane from Houston. We talked about your company. He goes, okay. Like, really? I said, yeah, I sent you an article about llama ranches. He goes, oh, hold on. He closes the door and he says, oh my God, you're Stacy Sacco. I go, yeah. He goes, oh my God, I forgot. I never got back to you. I went and bought a llama ranch because of that article. So thank you. You changed my whole life. I love you. And I'm like, oh my God, wow. Well, now it clicked because I had done this one nice thing for him. And then he said, what are you calling about? I said, well, I got a young guy who wants to get a job at McKinsey. He says, oh, send me his resume. Fax it over. Back then it was fax. So I sent it over. Next thing I know, he's getting an interview. I actually don't think he worked for McKinsey, but that guy helped him get another job. So about a year ago, I thought, whatever happened to Sandy? So I looked him up. He's the CFO at Coca-Cola Company. He moved all those jobs that I helped him get into, turned into this big change for him. So networking paid off, but it started with, and then I wrote Sandy and I said, hey, how are you? And he wrote me back on LinkedIn. He goes, first thing he goes, oh, Mr. Llama Ranch. He remembered that story and how I'm connected to Stu. I'm like, what the heck? But that's this part of, you meet somebody, find out what their needs are, send them something, an article, a contact, something to help them resolve whatever they're trying to do. So huge opportunity to help people. So in networking, a lot of people go thinking they're going to read their script and sell something. I go to find out what people's problems are and help them solve them. And people remember that. So that's why I probably get named best networkers, because I'm not out there trying to sell me or anything else. I will get around to it, but I'm not going to lead with that. So anyways, the next few slides here just to talk about, now we kind of have in our heads, okay, that process. You know, who do you need to meet? Where are they going? How do you stalk them in a way or meet them? So this slide deals with networking targets. How many do you have? Well, there's 7.8 billion people on the planet. It's pretty wide open. United States now has 300 million people, which is interesting. And New Mexico, this about 2 years ago, went past 2 million. And our Albuquerque area, there was an argument about that. The mayor recently said, we have about 1 million people. And I noticed online people were arguing with him. I'm like, no, he's actually right. It's not Albuquerque, which is around 650,000. But we have about 1 million people if you add in all the extra cities around us, Rio Rancho, East Mountains, Berlin. And then the other piece you want to look at is how many businesses we have. We have about 100,000 statewide. The rule of thumb is whatever you have in the state, about half of it's in Albuquerque. So we have about half of that, 50,000 businesses in Albuquerque. And as I said before, about 200 that are larger. So then you have all these other groups, 5,000 nonprofits. You can get that from Share New Mexico or United Ways, although I think they broke away from that now. Center for Nonprofit Excellence has a searchable database of those. There is a New Mexico Society of Association Executives. He has some lists, but they're not searchable. So I'd go to Share New Mexico or Center for Nonprofit Excellence if you want to tap into nonprofits. Professional associations, 506. That's on my website. Economic development agencies, organizations. I have a list, the Albuquerque Entrepreneur Ecosystem, with 300 groups, but they're not always economic development agencies per se. There's funders, co-working spaces, etc. I laugh because I always ask, I should do an economic development quiz sometime. Chamber of Commerce. How many chambers of commerce do we have in Albuquerque? Everybody almost always says to me, 3. Albuquerque, Hispano, and then there's another one. Well, it ends up, there's about 75 statewide, and in Albuquerque alone, we have about 20. And then if you start adding in the merchant associations and the main street groups, it's another number. It grows from there. But, you know, the big ones are Albuquerque, Hispano, and then Rio Rancho. But you have all these niche ones here. So in terms of networking, it sort of depends on who you need to meet. I spoke a few months ago at the Gay and Lesbian Chamber. There's a women's chamber, Green Chamber for sustainable businesses. There's a now an African American chamber. There's a Native American chamber. Then there's all the location ones. There's a Berlin Chamber, Los Lunas Chamber, Edgewood Chamber, or East Mountains. They just combined and went into one. I think it's Edgewood. And then, oh no, I think it's East Mountain. And then you got Placitas Chamber, Rancho de Albuquerque, etc. There's other great, easy ways to meet people, and that's through Toastmasters, these public speaking clubs. About 75 of those statewide. About half of them are here in Albuquerque. I just spoke at one of them last week. So those are great groups to get in front of people and learn about public speaking, but also meet people that are trying to improve their skill set in that area. So you take advantage of those meetings to meet people in a particular area. Usually they have a theme around them as to who started them. Types of groups that you could go to. You've got an easy one, quite honestly, is Kiwanis, Optimus, Civitan, all those business service groups. Generally, they want you to come as a guest of somebody, and I bet you know somebody that is a member of that. I've spoken at almost every one of them now in Albuquerque, but they generally are small business owners, so a great way to meet that sector. I mentioned the chambers, economic development agencies. You also have tips and leads groups. BNI is probably the largest one here with about 5 of those in Albuquerque. Basically, they're non-competing businesses that meet, about 20, 30 people meet every week, and they exchange business cards and will serve as sort of salespeople for each other. So they'll meet, let's say you have a group person and there is an accountant. they'll meet somebody who, and you're in real estate, they'll meet somebody who's buying a new home, and then they'll get their card and bring it to you in the meeting, and you may know somebody that needs an accountant, so you'll bring them a lead. So you're helping work the room together. Of course, now you have social media to connect, which I talk just a little bit about later. And it's tougher now because everything's become virtual. But so links to, this is networking resources. I've got some books that I recommend. A lot of these are more salesy, but the rest of this is groups that you can tie to, or links to, like Albuquerque Business First has this book of lists, and they'll have this is one of the better lists. They have about 45 groups in here. So I'll just pick one. Advertising PR agencies. It's the top 25, the top 24 law firms with their contact information. So this is another way to think in terms of networking. And then you have other publications here. Albuquerque Business First has their weekly paper. And then you have every Monday, the Albuquerque Albuquerque Journal has the book of lists. But I also include in here some calendars like Spingo, All Events, Mexico Biz Calendar is great. And then other people publish them. Exhibits, DJ Heckes has a list of calendar items. There's did I mention Spingo? Oh, your post is available on the screens at all the Flying Stars. By the way, anything that's a calendar, you can post stuff on there. So your post at all the satellite coffees and Flying Stars is great. If you have a flyer, take a picture of it. You can post it from your office on their website. And they get a lot of traffic, or used to. So then here's some tips for working the room. Basically repeats a lot of what I said. You can passively walk in, just meet people, or you can go in and prospect, look at the roster, and then here I mentioned some things, have someone introduce you. The key thing underneath all this is that you need to get in your head what's your value. So I show here the basic economic model, profits equal revenue minus cost. If you go to that, everybody's trying to increase their profits. So there's two ways to get there in that equation. I either help you increase your revenues or decrease your costs. So if you know where you fall in that, or a project you've done to help somebody do one of those or both of those, that's a story to tell when you want to probably build that into your elevator pitch or your microphone minute. When you meet somebody, they're going to say, what do you do? Well, if you can say, I help people grow their revenues by doing blank, that's huge. This slide, next slide, deals a little bit with networking tips for introverts. So appreciate your power. Listeners are better networkers than talkers. Go with a specific goal. Ask some scripted questions. You don't want to sit there and get freaked out about who you're meeting and then be worried about what you're going to say next. One other thing I didn't put in here, but if I ever go to a meeting, one of the things you can do in a particular meeting like this is a boardroom. Almost every meeting you go to, they're going to hand you an agenda, and it's going to say on there what time something starts, what's going to happen next. But I promise you, I know what's going to happen at any one moment. Somebody's going to say, or when they begin it, oh, well, thank you all for coming today. Could we go around the room and introduce yourself? So you should have a little microphone minute in your head. But the other thing I do is I'll take the sheet of paper and I'll turn over the agenda and I'll draw a picture of the table with all the seats, put my name in it and anybody's names I know. And as they say their next name, each name, I write it on the sheet. So again, I see it, I see them, I hear their name, it's clicking. And then I always have it to refer back to in the meeting. So Cecilia said something brilliant, which she does a lot. I'm going to embarrass her here, but so in the meeting, I might say, who the heck was that woman across from you? What's her name again? I look at my little sheet and I turn it over and I go, oh, Cecilia. And I go, raise my hand. I said, oh, I wanted to say something about what Cecilia just said. Well, guess what? Now I've seen your name, wrote your name. I pretty much got your name now. That's another trick for basically remembering names. And that helps with networkers too, because you're not going to get a chance to maybe have a dialogue with them. Them telling you and giving you information helps you to start tracking who you're meeting with. So you can, if your creative tips are sit with people you know, if you're introverted, invite a customer or prospect so you have somebody to talk to, several of my friends will invite me to their meetings. They're going to, because I become not their escort. I become their little promoter dude, because I'll know everybody in the room. So I'll go over and say hi to people, have them with me. They're introverts, and I'll introduce them. I've had more publishers from Albuquerque Business First when they've moved here have me go to meetings with them and then introduce them to people. So I have a lot of people take advantage of that and become your networking buddy. So find your networking buddy and take them with you. So a couple more slides here. If you're going to connect, one of the easy way to do that is connect through an association. I said we have 506. So it becomes part of this. We all say it's who you know and what you know is your success. But I'd add a third one. It's who knows you. So you could get on a board and take on a role in that board. I generally like to be the membership chair or something to do with money, or the president, so that I'm in the center of the room again. I'm back to being my big hand. But that's my way to connect in and people to notice me. I don't want to be the treasurer, but that's me. Some people love that, which is great. God bless you. That's too hidden for me. So you could speak at meetings, you can contribute articles, which creates this image of you being an industry expert or a topic area expert. And you can promote your business through associations by maybe being a sponsor, so they give you a microphone minute, have your banner up there or your logo on their program. You could advertise in their newsletter. So these are other ways to sort of expand those roles and experiences you have. The thing you got to be careful of, at one point, I worked at a company, I was sitting there with the president and realized he's on 8 boards. What? So I gave him a hard time about it. And then he got back and he says, well, how many boards are you on? I'm like, well, not 8. Well, I was on 6. Well, that's just as bad. So, I mean, I get it. We're all excited about helping in different communities and sectors, but I'm now on 3 boards right now. So I'm trying to stay away from being on too many boards, because then you're not being really effective or using those boards or those associations as a way to connect back to your goals. So the other things you can do to stand out in the crowd, which relates to a lot of this, is, again, about the who knows you, is, again, be a speaker, be recognized. One thing I wanted to mention is that there's a lot of award programs in the state, and you might go ahead, and it's going to sound pretty selfish, but there's 2 sides to that. Definitely nominate others that you know, because all of a sudden now you're somebody, you're a hero to somebody because you nominated them. I nominate every award program. I nominate 2-3 people. I've been doing that for years. So and a lot of the Women of Influence, Women in Technology Awards, those were people I nominated. Well, that's great. You feel good about that. But you might flip it the other way and get yourself nominated for things. And right now you've got AED is doing the 505 Awards. You got PRSA, Public Relations Society of America, is doing their award program. If you have a great PR campaign, you can apply to that. It gives you credibility as an expert in your own field, but it also gets your company name out to the world. Albuquerque Business First has Women of Influence. I was nominated in one of the power brokers. I'm one of the top 100 most influential people in New Mexico. And on and on and on. There's a lot of awards I've been nominated for, never won. I've been nominated for Faculty of the Year at UNM for 16 years and never won. I feel like Susan Lucci. But she never won the Emmys or whatever it was. And I'm happy to not, maybe I'll retire someday and say I was nominated for 20 years or 30 years. I'm proud of that. I don't need to be the winner, but just to be nominated is pretty cool. So there's another way to get to network, in a way, to get your name out there. So I have about 2 more slides, and this is about how to network online. And the only thing I would say is that a lot of the things I talked about, you can still do online. Yeah, generally there's Zoom meetings, so you want to be in the right room. And when you're on there, look at who's in the pictures if they give their names. And you might see somebody on there like, oh, there's Cecilia. I haven't talked to her in a long time. You could send her a private chat. And the other thing is, I would make sure, a lot of people hide out in those rooms, so they just put their initials or their name, their first name. I'd put my full name and think of that as my business card. So you might, if you're going to add a chat, a little note, put your name, your company, and maybe your website so that people recognize who you are, but are also tied to almost what would be on these business cards or your name tag. That chat on networking online is the same thing that you're conveying who you are. And you want to be memorable. So I always say at the end of the meeting, when they say, do you have any questions? Ask a clever question or something that will make the speaker look great. I go to more meetings and at the end, they always say, any questions? I always ask a question. People know me. I always go, here he goes. Shut him up. No, and then I go up later and talk to the speaker and they go, oh my God, thank you for asking me that question. You made me look good. How'd you think of that? Oh, I knew what I was going to ask. And I asked that purposefully because I want everybody to feel good about the meeting because I've been the president and organizer of meetings. And it is the most awful experience on the planet if you have a meeting and at the end you say any questions and it's crickets. I want to be able to ask a great question. And then the speaker usually goes, what's your name again? Wow, thank you. And sometimes the president of the group will come over and say, thank you for asking that question, getting us started. Wow, that was great. Good question, too. So I look pretty smart. I look smarter than I am. So my roommate in college used to say I'm not as dumb as I look. But anyways, I think there's some great value in making a connection in these networking virtually or online. So don't lose sight of you're still networking, even though you think you're hidden. And then the only other thing I add to that is be sure you know, if you're in a setting like this, where you're talking to a screen, it's like being on TV. So make sure you wear nice clothes. I had a guy the other day who it was very obvious he had on his underwear and he didn't have his pants on because he thinks he's hidden. Well, when he went to go get something from the kitchen, we're all like, he's in his pajamas, guys. It was pajamas, but it was like, what? Dude, put on your suit. You know, it's okay. Remember, you're on stage, so watch what the lighting is, what's behind you. There's, I think, backgrounds you can get with amazing books. It looks like you're reading. I wouldn't do that. That's fake. But, you know, definitely not be in your basement. You know, have something nice behind you. So you're conveying a message about who you are. So other points in there. If you're hosting a meeting online, the key things is, what's that meeting going to look like? Do you need people to network there? You can get set up on Zoom, but there's another software package called Remo where you can put people into tables or groups and assign them that way. I was at a national conference the other day, webinar, and they would put 5 people to a table, and I got to go sit at a table with 4 senior executives from around the country. The president of Morgan Stanley, are you freaking kidding me? How did that happen? Well, because I'm on there and I said I wanted to talk with the finance people. So they put me in there. Well, if you're going to manage an online meeting, there's more you can do to help networking there by creating these connections or breakout rooms. And there's lots of ways to do it, but I'll give you some examples here. And then I have some examples of platforms, Google, GoToMeeting, Remo, Skype, WebEx, etc. And then to end this presentation, I do want to say that one of the things that's been a guiding light for me was years ago when I was at Pepperdine, I was at one of the guys I sat with in one of my classes a lot. He was in one of my classes was a young man named Jeff Kemp. And he was a great kid. I say kid now, but he told me, I asked him one day, what do you do? Now, I don't watch sports hardly at all. And he goes, well, I'm the LA Rams quarterback. And I'm like, yeah, right. I'm the Lakers center. And he's looking at me like, what are you smoking, buddy? No, I really am the LA Rams quarterback. It's Jeff Kemp. You know the name if you watch sports. Well, we hit it off so much. His dad, Jack Kemp, was coming to give a keynote speech at a Pepperdine alumni group meeting. So Jeff asked me to come with my wife. And so I said, would you like to sit at the table with me? So I'm sitting next to who? Jack Kemp. Jack Kemp ran for president, I think, against Reagan. He's a senator, House of Representatives, quarterback himself, NFL, AFL, U.S. HUD secretary. I mean, this is a nationally known person I'm sitting with. And I asked him, I says, wow, how cool is this? I'm just a poor kid from Albuquerque, you know. And I just said, so why did you run for president? I was so curious about that because I've always thought it'd be great to run for an office. He said, you know, I ran for office because I want to give back to my community. I've been so blessed to be given so much. And he said, you know, my rule of thumb is what he said was, which I have here, give it back better than you got it. I thought, what's that mean? He says, well, when I went on one of my first dates as a kid, I asked one of my buddies if I could borrow his car. So I said, well, the friend said, sure. And he says, oh, well, I'll give you some money. It's kind of his version of Uber or Lyft. And his friend said, no, you're my buddy. Just take the car. Well, when he gave the car back, he thought, you know, I owe him. Thank you. So he filled the car up with gas. He washed it. He fixed the mirror and he gave it back to him. He said that's been a theme of his, is that he wants to give everything back better than he got it. So as the president, he wanted to make it better than when he got there. So I love that theme. And I thought at the time I was 20, whatever, well, I'm never going to run for president, but I am responsible for a lot of things in my life. I'm a manager at Transamerica at the time. So I should get, my employees in Transamerica should be better off than I was their vice president of marketing. If I'm not, I shouldn't be the guy in that job. I'm at the time, you know, married, had been married by then. My wife should be better off that she married me. If not, shouldn't be married to me. Go marry somebody else. I'm a teacher, so I have 4 or 5 classes. I've had 87 classes I've taught, over 3,000 students now. They should all be better off that I was there. If not, I shouldn't be teaching. So to me, it goes back to, are you making it better than what you got? If you borrow anything, fix it, clean it up, add gas. And I've tried to follow that theme since I met Jack. He's passed now. But is that a wonderful message? And so I try to do that in all my networking experiences. I find out what people's needs are, and I follow up with information. I have a great website. I have 5,000 people know that. Go to my website and pay attention to what I'm doing. I don't sell much on there. It's more just helping them move themselves forward. So if I had to leave with any main theme about the best way to network is not to be out selling something, but to pay attention to what people's needs are and help them solve those problems or meet those needs, move things forward for them. So always give it back better than you got it. So my information is in this presentation. I do, as Cecilia said, I am a mentor, so I'm here on this campus, part of campus, every 3rd Friday. Cecilia keeps track of all that, promotes it, and then keeps track of who's signed up. I usually meet with people for about a half hour at a time. So I'm happy to help you find a niche market. I have somebody I was talking to the other day, I've got to tell you about Cecilia, who's a musician who's looking to connect into programs to do maybe music for films. Well, so he's trying to get into Netflix, and when we talked about it at Albuquerque Studios, but I thought, you know, what I really can help him with is you have all these other smaller production houses here. West has a studio, Chris Schuler has Christopher Productions. He's won some Emmys too, like this guy. So those are the kinds of connections I can help connect you to, is to something that makes sense for you to move your business forward. So I'm happy to meet with you, and please do email me or send me a phone, leave me a text, or leave me a voicemail. And happy to help connect you to any of these resources and help you move forward. So thank you again, Cecilia, for arranging this. I think I'm at an hour, and let me go ahead and end up. Thank you.